We need a clock right there.
Play clock.
We have a clock right there that just is never right.
I know, that's, that's what we need when they're, because I'm always like looking at my phone. Call the meeting to order. Can we get a motion to adopt the agenda, the June 3rd agenda?
I'll move.
Seconder? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. Recommendation that the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 regular council meeting be adopted. Councillor Willis. Seconder, Councillor McLean. Errors or omissions? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. Recommendation that the minutes of the May 28th, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Elliott. Seconder,
I'll second.
Councillor Gould. Errors or omissions? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. We have no petitions or delegations tonight. No unfinished business. Takes us to staff reports. BC Transit 2019-2020 Annual Operating Agreement. Recommendation that the Town of Princeton approve the BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement between the Town of Princeton and the BC Transit, and that the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to execute the necessary documents.
I'll move.
Councillor Gould, seconder. Councillor McLean, any questions, comments? All in favor? So moved, thank you.
Maybe one late question.
Okay, I'll allow it this time.
I'm curious about how the progress has gone along with the, and I know this isn't directly related to the tie-in with the service going to Penticton and Kelowna and that sort of thing. Is there any progress being made on that, or?
The Penticton Kelowna one?
Yeah, where?
Yeah, so that starts in September. It's gonna run our bus will meet up with it on Mondays. They did send us an email. I never heard back from them about some changes, but I think they're coming back to the regional district soon to discuss it again, so.
So, excuse me, but would it be then a person might be able to, in the same day, go from here to Kelowna and back, or would it be an overnight?
It most likely will be an overnight.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Council reports. Let's start with, who just started last time? You did. Let's start with Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not as busy a week for me as it was last time. Wednesday, May 22nd, I attended the Okanagan Regional Library Board meeting in Kelowna as the alternate. Thursday, May 23rd, I attended a pickleball tennis user group meeting with Councillor Gould and CAO Thomas and Recreation Events Coordinator Naples. Tuesday, May 28th, I attended the Committee of the Whole meeting where the KVR Mixed Use Select Committee made their presentation with all members of council. Wednesday, May 29th, I attended the Princeton Museum and helped with the job interviews for their summer job positions. This is something I did last year to help out as president of the museum, and so this year I offered again as a commitment that I wanted to give them a hand with. And later that evening, I attended the Princeton Posse AGM where I conducted the election of officers. And Thursday, May 30th, with all the members of council, I attended the meeting with RCMP Superintendent Jager, Sergeant Hughes, and Corporal Parsons. And that is my report to council.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
I attended the same meetings, the RCMP meeting, the Committee of the Whole meeting. I also was able to carry off together with the other Rotarians, carry off the Rotary Charity Golf Tournament. We had 76 golfers. We had over 30 sponsors, and we raised over $10,000.
Excellent.
And our commitment for the, from Rotary for the 2-year process is $30,000 for the highway rescue replacement truck. And so as a result of that, I'd like to think we raised 2/3 of this year's commitment to the highway rescue truck. So
Excellent.
it was well attended and a lot of fun and raised a lot of money.
Great news. Thank you. Councillor Willis.
28th, I attended the committee of the whole with the rest of the council, and then 29th, I attended the Fosse AGM.
Thank you. Councillor Gould.
So I attended the May 23rd meeting with the pickleball users and tennis users with Councillor Elliott, as you mentioned. May 28th, the Committee of the Whole. May 29th was the Vermilion Forks Community Forest AGM and Open House at the Riverside Centre. I was there along with Mayor Coyne and CAO Thomas. And May 30th, we met with the Superintendent Ted Dieger of the Penticton South Okanagan Smokemean Regional Detachment, Sergeant Hughes and Corporal Parsons, and they just updated us on this new tracking system on statistics, which may, when they're presented to the public, may look like it's skewed in that our crime stats are going up, when in fact it's just actually being more specifically cleared and categorized instead of just it happened, it didn't happen, or it might have happened. So it'll be a little bit more clear, so we're looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. May 22nd, I went to Mining Days where I spoke at that event. May 23rd and 24th, I was at the Regional District. May 28th, in the morning, I attended the SOS Rural Healthcare Community Coalition in Caramias. Then later that afternoon, I met with the Upper Smokemean Indian Band manager. And then that evening, I attended the Committee of the Whole meeting. May 29th, in the morning, I had the pleasure, along with Don Johnson, to volunteer at the museum with the grade 1s from John Allison, and we got to show them around the museum and tell them a little bit about Princeton, and it was a exciting morning. That evening, I attended the Vermilion Forks Community Forest AGM and the open house. The next day, on the 30th, 8:30 in the morning, I attended the South Okanagan Smokemean Immigration Partnership Council in Penticton. It's a new one for me. They work with the whole South Okanagan Smokemean, and it's about integrating new Canadians into the workplace and social and just every aspect of Canadian life. So it's a big group, and it was a very long day. It was a lot to take in your first meeting when you're sitting there doing a strategic planning sort of thing with as a new person in this this organization. And then that evening, I met with the superintendent and our sergeant and corporal with the rest of council. And this morning, I dropped off a welcome basket to our newest locum, Dr. Eric Cunningham, who's here until Friday. And that is my report. Okay, we have 2 letters to receive and file. The first one is a letter from the Ministry of Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development on possible low water advisory and updates on contact information requests. And then the other one is a letter from the UBCM on a flood risk, flood mapping, flood mitigation planning approval. We were approved some funding. So we have a recommendation that items 8.1 and 8.2 be received and filed. Councillor Willis, seconder. Councillor McLean, questions, comments? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, we have a correspondence action request from the letter. We have a letter from the Princeton Traditional Music Festival. Recommendation is that Mayor and Council approve Derek Winter, site manager's request for the following for the Princeton Traditional Music Festival being held on August 15th to 19th, 2019. Okay, this is a long one. The use of the visitor center and museum bathrooms, including 1 case of toilet paper and extra garbage liner bags left in the library. The use of the library meeting room, 8 garbage cans with liner bags and 2 cans marked recycle. The use of the town's 20 by 20 tent. Have the town's crew provide chairs from Riverside and distribute the chairs 50-50 between Veterans Square and the museum stable. The use of the 220-volt power splitter and the use of barricades and special event signs. Motion to that? Councillor McLean, seconder. Councillor Gould. Questions or comments?
Is this any different to previous years?
No.
Okay.
No, it's the same thing.
That was going to be my question.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. Okay, another long one. 9.2 is Okanagan Regional Library request for support and endorsement. We have a recommendation, whereas the Town of Princeton recognizes the important role that libraries play in our community. Libraries and the early literacy program they run are integral to the developing proficient readers and ensuring that children succeed in schools more and more. Digital literacy programs run by libraries also help ensure that citizens can contribute to our digital world. Additionally, vulnerable demographic groups, including seniors, low-income families, youth, and new Canadians, rely on access to libraries as an important tool for their participation in the community, form education, to searching for jobs and consuming Canadian cultural materials. And whereas libraries in our community recognize that our users increasingly seek to access digital publications offered by multinational publishers, and that the access to those publications is too often curtailed by prohibitively high licensing fees or else entirely denied to Canadian libraries, and whereas libraries must be in a position to offer digital publications to their users as part of their service offering to our community, particularly given the contemporary rapid pace of digitization of educational and cultural materials. Now be it resolved that the Town of Princeton do hereby, 1, indicate our support for the Canadian Urban Libraries Council in its efforts to increase access to digital publications for library users in the Town of Princeton and across Canada. 2, call on the federal government to investigate barriers faced by libraries in acquiring digital publications and problems that poses for vulnerable demographic groups in Canada. And 3, further ask the federal government to develop a solution that increases access to digital publications across Canada and assist libraries in meeting the cost requirements to acquire digital publications. Councillor McLean, seconder. Councillor Willis, questions, comments?
Yeah, if I could speak to this just briefly. I was at this meeting where this was brought up, and the licensing fees, just for some background, $13 for a paperback, $22 for a hardcover, $60 for the digital format. So this is one of the reasons that this item came to the table, is that the libraries are trying to get those numbers a little more, shall we say, competitive, or at least equal, so that digital works can be accessed by the library with less licensing fees.
Any further questions, comments? Councillor
Would
McLean?
the reasoning from the publisher's perspective be that a book will take a certain amount of time to go out and come back, that same book at $13 or $14, whatever it was, and the opposite of that is digital just goes out and then the next person gets it? And
That's a really fair question, because they estimate that, for example, they say a paperback edition is expected to last 3 to 4 years, where a hardcover would probably last less, but you would think a digital format would last longer, but for some reason it costs more for them to license it. I don't quite understand why that's the issue, why you would think that they would be able to check that out more frequently.
So the way that works, just for your information, is when you rent or borrow a book from the library, there's only a time period. It disappears from your device after that time period, and the license is for so many I want to call it rentals, it's not rentals, but so many rentals per
Add a
license.
Downloads?
Yeah, they say
Yeah,
electronically checked out 52 times over a
And then it
2-year
just,
period.
then their license ends and then they can no
Right.
longer access the book.
Oh, okay.
So it's like if you had one of the other streaming services, the minute you stop paying for it, it goes away,
Right,
right? So,
yeah, thank you.
okay, any further questions or comments, discussion? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. 9.3, we have a letter from the Board of Education of School District Number 58, Nicholas Similk, Maine. We have a recommendation that mayor and council attend a meeting with the Board of Education and Conservation Officer Kerr to discuss wildlife concerns as available.
I will so move.
Councillor Gould, seconder. Councillor Elliott. Any questions or comments to this? Councillor Gould?
Just comments. We are continuing to encourage residents to make reports to the BC Conservation so that there's a tracking of calls for service in our area. And now we have fawning season upon us, so we're gonna have the potential for more conflicts. So I'm really interested in having another meeting with CO Kerr.
Yeah, I think in this case, we should, I don't know, maybe have our wild safe coordinator as part of this discussion. That's a good idea. And then there's a new app that's out by the BC Wildlife Federation that I think we should probably also have a conversation about. It allows you to make reports on your phone as they happen, so. Okay, so any further questions?
There's no date set for this at this point.
Not at this point, no. We'll have to still arrange it. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, number 10, zoning amendment application for 367 Highway 3. That bylaw number 962, 2019, Town of Princeton zoning amendment bylaw be read a third time. Councillor McLean, seconder. Councillor Elliott. Any questions or comments? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. We have no new business. That brings us to a motion to close. Recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public for the purpose of considering negotiations and related discussion respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at the preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Anybody? Councillor Willis, seconder. Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. So we're now closed. Thanks for coming, everybody. There was a lot of reading. And everybody up there.